I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life.
Welcome back to Black Lodge Trivia Night. I'm Art, and we're here once again down a Matt and a Patrick. They are presenting Black Lodge Trivia Night's bid to take over Warner Brothers Discovery to the board today. And you know what? Let them be the face of the operation. I'll hang back here, take care of business while they get the job done. Game of Thrones will be in good hands, I promise you that. But what that means is we're here with another solo session of Hostile from Zoser Games. And if you remember last time, things got spicy. Life support failed. They didn't have enough suits to keep everybody safe while they head to the Westvale to either salvage it for parts or to move over there entirely and leave the Noctua behind. And so there was a discussion of like, what do we do with this suit shortage? Doc Brown's going to go into hypersleep. Dell doesn't need a suit, although there was a debate like it's going to get really cold. Like at some point, even like the android's going to not be able to handle like, you know, near absolute zero temperatures if that's where it gets inside the ship. And JM was like, yeah, and obviously the third person's Tom because Tom sucks. And Tom's like, I do not suck. And everybody's like, you kind of suck. And May ended up pulling out her weapon to force Tom to acquiesce to JM's request to get into the fucking hypersleep tank. So that's where we left off. So we're going to pick it up. Tom is now staring down the barrel of May's gun, literally. And she's calm. You know, she's even keeled. It's not like, you know, she's shaking, you know, at the prospect of what she's doing. She's just like, I have a gun on you and I need you to do as I say, sir, please. Let's not make this hysterical and turn this into something we don't want it to become. She's not actually saying that out loud, but that's exactly what she's saying with her eyes. Like maybe like a single eyebrow sort of arches up a little bit and conveys everything. Now, does Tom go for it? I don't know if there's a stat here that would do it. So we're going to do 1 through 5 he does. I feel like if somebody's pointing a gun at you, it's pretty convincing in the moment. So 5, yeah, he's like, you know, he was quite angry with JM for usurping his authority, not treating with respect in front of the crew, etc., etc. So with this, he's turning almost purple with rage, but he also, you know, you have to sometimes lose the battle to win the war. So his wheels are starting to spin. He's like, okay, fuck all these people. And I need to figure out a way to regain control of the situation. It's not going to happen in this exact moment. So he's like, fine, just, and he looks around and he's like, JM, you seem to be the one in charge here. Don't fuck it up. You know, since you're not going to let me do my job, at least get us through alive so I can make sure you face the proper disciplinary actions to get you thrown out of the company. And JM kind of cracks a smirk and he's like, you know what, man, I'd expect nothing less. I'll make sure it gets done. And so he's like, May, you know, can you escort Mr. Hunter to the hypersleep chambers and get him and Doc Brown set up? And May's like, sure thing. So May and Tom take off. So here's the question. Adea, you know, she's coming off a series of bad runs here in the mission. It's kind of her fault that the ship life support can't get fixed, if you remember that from last time, because she's losing her shit. At the same time, one of the things that she loses her shit about is Nepo babies in control and people not speaking up when something needs to be said. And that just happened. You know, maybe it escalated to a point where it's almost got out of control and turned into a catastrophe, but it didn't get there. So what I'm going to think about for a moment is I'm going to sort of have her come back from the edge a little bit. She's not a complete mess at this point. She's bringing it back just a little bit. So that's good. So maybe if we need to do another roll with her, I might not give her like a penalty or make her such a detriment to what's trying to get done. Okay. So given that, maybe Olivia's like, oh, whoa, hey, man, I don't want to get on your bad side. Again, she's got like that gallows humor that, masks her pessimism and paranoia. So now, to that effect, she's already been sort of having some beef with JM. And now she just watched him pull a gun on someone on the crew. Now, granted, it might have felt like an extreme circumstance, but nothing plugs into your paranoia like having a crew member draw a weapon on another crew member. So we have to keep that in mind. Dell's still always thinking the company's good at the expense of all else. He has core programming that forbids him from doing harm to humans unless ... So, yeah. Let's say he's going to go along with this at the moment because the plan could be to salvage the ship. And he knows that they can't really do their actual mission here, which is to, it's hard to even recall. There's another ship that they needed to rescue, the Lady Luck. That can't happen unless everybody's sort of alive and some ship to get over there is intact. And that's his priority. I confess, I don't 100% know why. I was just going to let it play out and see what happened as we got there. Like I said last time, I like to come in hot narratively because I think that's the whole point of the solo experience. Not knowing. Not having it thought out or planned. So I think he's cautiously on board, but wary of the direction this is heading. JM... I don't think JM... Sensible doesn't take risks. So I think in his mind, I don't think he would be that shaken by this because I think in his mind, he was definitely doing the lesser of two evils, the logical path. And if he didn't escalate and take it to an extreme point, the consequences, it was actually even riskier. Letting it play out with Tom in charge. Or putting somebody else in the hypersleep chamber that he would have considered mission critical, and he values his judgment way more than Tom, who clearly is new to this, and JM does not respect his decision-making at all. So I think that's where everybody kind of stands with what just happened. JM can rationalize the ends justify the means. Olivia's just had her paranoia. This goes up to 11 because a crew member just pulled a gun on somebody else. Dell, waiting to see how it plays out because his priority is still the mission, even though he would never say that out loud. And Adea maybe takes it back just a little bit because there's a plan in place to get them out of their predicament that she helped cause. So her guilt maybe is slightly alleviated. So we're going down to... we're going to go down to the hypersleep chambers. I don't know if I have a map for that. I mean, it doesn't matter if I have a map for that. Just, just out of curiosity. The Noctua bridge, cargo bay, crew quarters, galley, mainframe, repair bay, sick bay. It doesn't really matter. At one point for one game, I thought I had something. I just don't know where I got it from. So Tom and May are making their way to... Okay, Tom and May are making their way to the to sickbay. They would actually start by going to sickbay. And so let's do that. Let's have them go to sickbay. Again, not that it actually matters. Doc Brown is there. The engineer is also there. Maybe that's where the engineer was sort of tied up. And we got May and Tom. They show up. May still has her gun on Tom because, again, she's a security officer. She's not going to be like, well, okay, that's done, and I'm just going to, stop, taking precautions. Tom's going to try and talk his way out of this. It's a one-on-one discussion, and if we remember last time, and I actually don't remember from last time, there's rules for this. And the rules involve if it's one-on-one or if it's a group. I think a group is leadership. Character interactions, I think it was part of this. 2 characters are in opposition. Okay. Stressful crew situation, relationship tables, reactions, confrontation. I think this is kind of what I was looking at last time. Liaison if it's a one-on-one situation. So it is a one-on-one situation. He's got a 1. They should have, I think, a tied social. They have a tied social, so they don't get a bonus for that. So he's got to make a 7. He's got to roll 8 or higher on 2d6 plus 1. 2d6 plus 1. He didn't make it because he rolled a 7, but he needed an 8. So, okay. So he's like, hey, May, you don't have to do this. And he's doing his best to try and talk her out of keeping the gun trained on him. I think she's seen enough that, listen to Tom, who I think is a jackass, or put the lives of everybody on the ship in danger. I think she's like, this is a pretty easy calculation to make logically, and it's not in favor of Tom. So, okay. So they get to, they get to the sickbay, and Doc Brown, is stabilized. She's in bad shape, but she is stabilized. The engineer sort of when he hears the door open, maybe he sort of stops and stands up a little bit. Maybe he was sort of trying to jimmy the fasteners a little bit to see maybe if there's an escape. But, when they come in, he sort of stops and hey, I'm not doing anything. And as soon as he sees that May has a gun trained on Tom, he's like, oh shit, whoa. And she's like, no, look. I get it. This is a tense situation. We're going to need you. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever you need. He's like, first thing is you and the captain here, I need you to take Doc down to a hypersleep chamber and let's get her set up. And he's like, oh, okay, all right. And then after we do that, Tom's going to get in another one. And then you and I are going to suit up with the rest of the crew. And we're going to try and either fix this ship or we're going to go take over your old ship and use it as a life raft. And he's like, okay, all right. And he sort of takes some comfort in knowing there's a plan in place that doesn't involve him getting spaced like the other guy from his ship or something to that effect. Knowing that he's being included as part of the solution, I think sort of eases him a little bit. Because he's like, okay, they're seeing me as useful. So nothing bad is going to happen to me as long as that's how I'm viewed. So they get Doc into the hypersleep chamber. And let me bring up those rules again for character interactions. when do you create an interaction? You might think the most logical time to create a relationship is character creation. Right, when two characters working together, two characters are in opposition. I think we could do like we just did did he convince her? The answer was no, but let's play out let's play out a character interaction moment, because there's two characters in opposition that are in the middle of a stressful crew situation. So I feel like this is a defining moment between May and Tom. He doesn't think that he can convince her to let him out of this, because what are the options? I know she volunteered, but really, what are the options at this point? But I think this is going to establish something between them more permanently. So, we're trying to avoid a bad reaction. Is Tom going to be able to forgive her for this, I guess? I don't even know if this is the right one to do. I mean, because we already did a confrontation. Spotlight. See, a spotlight is more of just like a moment that could sort of stem from anything. This is really specific. I don't know if we need specifically the relationship at this moment, but a reaction. So we're trying to avoid a bad reaction. May understands that, when this is all said and done, hopefully sooner rather than later, they're all going to be on a ship together for who knows how long, and they have to be able to go back to trusting each other. She maybe appreciates that more than JM does. He's sort of in the moment and is justifying the means. And Tom's kind of a spoiled brat, so he might just take this personally for the rest of his life. Okay, so using the 1d6, the reaction table, to avoid a bad reaction. So what I'm trying to figure out is, how do you avoid a bad reaction? Because there's a 1d6 reaction table here. Clearly I'm rolling a skill, I guess. What would her skill be? She doesn't really have a skill. She's not very social. Is there something that she could fall back on? Is there something in her personality? Grim and quiet actions. Okay, so she's going to be... Here's her thing. She volunteered first to go into the hypersleep chamber. She's grim and quiet, actions speak for them. She wasn't all talk the minute somebody needed to jump in. She's like, I'll go. And then somebody made a persuasive argument to convince everyone except for Tom that she needed to stay out because she had demolitions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll a 2d6. I'm not going to give her penalties. It's just going to be a straight 2d6 roll because... Let's just do that and see if it's even necessary. Okay, so she's going to be able to diffuse the situation a little bit. She needed to beat an 8. Let's see what the reaction would be. I don't know if I put this table on there. Okay. Panic, anxiety. Something is eating at the character, and rather than withdraw or seek solace, the character displays their anxiety and panic. Okay. I think that makes sense. So here's what's going to happen. She's going to present the case like, look, I'm really sorry it got to this point. We don't have a lot of time. You're new to this. It's not your fault, sort of a little condescending, but sometimes you've got to make the tough call. Sometimes the right call is putting yourself out there, raising your hand, being the one to say, I'll do it. Just like I did, right? You'll get that as you learn and get more experience. Like sometimes the right decision is you, and you can't take it personally. You can't see it as a condemnation or a comment on you as a person. Your skills is just, it's almost math. There's a calculation involved that has to happen or we all die. So I just want you to understand those were the stakes. That's why I did what I did. And so he, so Tom, like I said, he's panic anxiety. He's like, look, yeah, no, I understand. I just, it's really hard for a straight white man to get ahead in this world. And, I'm not, nobody's helping me here, right? Like, I have a job to do and I don't feel like I'm getting the support. And so he's sort of spinning himself up a little bit. Like, and I just, I really want to do a good job. And, I know nobody thinks I belong here. And I know nobody believes that, I've earned this in any regard. But, she's like, yeah, no, I know. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about this once we get this shit resolved. And he's like, I'm worried that like people are gonna, this is my first time and this is the worst first impression. I wasn't trying to do that. She's like, I know. And he's like, I needed it to go smoothly, goddammit. I needed this to go smoothly. And she's like, I hear that. I get it. When you're out in space like this, we all need it to go smoothly because when it doesn't, it can get very hairy very quickly. So we're all on that page. You have to believe us. So now it's time for you to do your part. We have a plan. You know that it's a good plan. Maybe you don't agree with the exact nuts and bolts of every moment of it, but in general, this is a good plan. He's like, yeah, no, I know. So she's like, so get in the hypersleep chamber and we'll pull you out in a little bit. You won't even know what happened. And then he sort of looks at her. He's like, you promise? Because I feel like the easiest thing would be just leave me in the hypersleep chamber and just never pull me out. She's like, no, I won't let that happen. I promise. For better or worse, you're the captain. And while it's not going particularly well at the moment, you're never going to learn if we just bottle you up in a hypersleep chamber for the rest of the mission. So we'll get you out, and your next crew will thank us, hopefully, if it's not us, if you're going to get us kicked out of the company. And he's like, okay, all right. So he goes into the hypersleep chamber, and he... she's got like, points, hey, engineer, why don't you get Doc set up? And he's like, and like the smoke enters the chamber and, she, gets covered for a moment. And when, the smoke clears, she's sort of officially in hypersleep. And he sort of leans over and he sees the display, sees a strong heartbeat. He sees, the life signs are all 5 by 5. So she's like, oh, and he's like, yeah, okay, the Doc's good. And so then May's like, takes her gun. I'm like, I'm going to put this away now, right? And he sort of nods and he's sitting on the edge of the hypersleep chamber and he sort of, spins a little bit on his butt, lies down and sort of folds his arm a little bit over his chest. And she's about to close the button. He's like, May. And she's like, yeah. He's like, promise me, like you'll pull me out when this is done. Don't leave me in here. Like you're right. There's a lot I need to learn, but don't leave me in here. And she's like, don't worry about it. I promise. And she punches the button and he goes from looking at her to watching the lid come down and close on him. And then he knows what's coming, but he's nervous. He doesn't know what he's going to wake up to. So right when the smoke comes, his eyes go a little wide. The chamber fills with smoke completely, so you can't really see his face. And when it's cleared, his eyes are closed. Strong pulse, strong O2 levels, etc. And so what I'm going to say is that I feel like the hypersleep chambers have their own sort of sub-life support system. They can't be reliant on the ship as a whole because for this exact reason. It could be like your lifeboat in the worst of an emergency. So I feel like as long as somehow the engine has power, the subsystems and the subsystem itself is operational. That's why I feel like in this case, the hypersleep chambers can maintain life support while the rest of the ship can't. Which I think there's a logic to it, I guess. I'm making it all up. It doesn't have to be logical. But yeah, so there we go. So Tom's in the hypersleep chamber. Doc's in the hypersleep chamber. May and the engineer are like, okay, we all set? And they're like, yeah, okay, here we go. So they're going to go back to the bridge. And let's bring engineer. Let me see something real quick. Let me just ba-bong. Is one of those little things that I always forget to do. I want a prototype token, and I want to link actor data. And then the other thing I want to do is lock artwork rotation. Not that there's any real artwork because I never bothered to do it, but as you can see, no. So now if I do this, and then if I bring this over, in theory now, there you go. It always stays upright. Not the most important thing, and it's it's valuable when you're using like a top-down token for like more tactical combat, but when you're using portraits, I get really distracted when all of a sudden things are flipping upside down. Even in games like where facing might be more important and you're still using portraits, I still get a little distracted, even though it is giving me some information. Okay, so we're back in the bridge. Tom and Doc Brown are no longer there. Engineer is part of the group. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a plan. We're going to do that sort of mechanic where you work out the details of everything. Or are we? So did I ever... This is a good question. Ships. West Alliance. I feel like I did generate a ship. Okay. Yeah, I remember. I was like, I thought I did this sort of randomly just to get those mechanics down. So let's bring people on board. We got an engineer. And then let's get the crew. We're going to potentially have Adea, Dell, JM, Olivia, and May. Those are the people that might potentially be on board this mission. Okay, so the core of the plan is this. They're going to take a day or two, dock with... Right, because it was a couple days out. So it's going to take a couple days to get there. And it's going to... Okay, it's going to take a couple days to get there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do one of those character moments between Dell and JM because I want to see what happens with them. Because again, Dell has this ulterior motive that he would never expressly admit. Everybody's under the assumption like that androids are here to help. They would never endanger people. And that's mostly true, but not always, ... So I'm going to do a character moment between them just to see what happens with it. But that's the crew that's going to make their way over to the West Alliance. They're going to dock. They're going to make their way over to the West Alliance, check for parts, see if the Noctua can be salvaged. If it cannot, they're going to transfer to the West Alliance and use that as the new base of operations. And then, we'll figure out what happens with the Noctua. That's the basic plan. So before we do that plan, let's do a quick character moment. Again, we've done this once or twice, maybe once, but I wanted to do it again here. Hostile solo. Building plot, random encounters, non-player character interactions. Let's take a look at this. When you create an interaction, 2 characters. You know what? I'm going to also up the drama points. So maybe we should do also a dramatic roll. So again, it's 2d6 plus the drama points, and you're trying to beat... I think a 14. So let's do that. So it's 2d6 plus 3. Okay, no drama yet. Let's get back to an interaction. 2 characters working together, 2 characters in opposition, stressful crew situation, period of boredom. It's sort of a period of boredom or calm mixed with coming off a stressful crew situation. Do they have a relationship in any way yet? Del, not really. So that's going to start getting established here. Bonds of friendship, hatred, mistrust. Relationships can often affect or even create new storylines. Can relationships... So let's... I don't know if this relationship table is going to work because of Del being an android, but let's just see what we get. Secretly in love. I don't know if that's going to work. Hatred and constant arguing. Dependent on another PC's support. I'm going to go with that one. So here's the deal. Del knows that secretly the mission to rescue the Lady Luck is the priority. All of this is a sideshow. That cannot be lost. And he's starting to realize that JM is the one in charge. You know, even if Tom is officially the captain, he's starting to realize the alpha dog is Tom. So let's fill that in. Needs JM as ally to convince crew to follow company wishes. So I think he's sort of making that calculation. Okay. Let's roll a 1d6 on this reaction table just to see if it matters. See if it's useful in some way. A 6. It's not really going to be an argument. We already had the argument, so let's skip that for now. Spotlight. We have the inspiration tables. Just roll a couple times on those. Looking at that, it's really B that we're looking at. Pride, charming. Let's get a couple more results. So we've got pride, charming, motherhood, hardened, secret, destiny, cunning. We're going to go with destiny, cunning. I think we've already established before that Del may have had access to somebody's, personnel file and might know somebody's dark secret. Let me just see what that is. Knows a dark secret about... So he's in the know about her past. So maybe he's got a little insight into Tom as well, and he knows that Olivia screwed him over at the start of his career. And on some level, he feels like maybe he felt like he got screwed over in the beginning and he should have been further than he is. Who hasn't felt that at some point in their lives. And so Del's going to sort of take that approach, and be a little flattering, like, oh, JM, you sort of, you handled that like a little unconventionally, but it got the job done. And I think, the company's going to appreciate that. And, Leyland Okuda, is always looking for, that kind of leadership, the people that understand what needs to be done and then doesn't get tripped up in the process of accomplishing it. And JM sort of nodding at him and like, yeah, does he go for it? It is playing to his vanity a little bit, so let's do 1d4 yes. Yeah, so he's like, oh yeah, no, he's sort of persuaded a little bit by Del. He's like, yeah, no, he's right. Like, I did deserve to be better, and I do know what I'm doing, and I can be a leader, and why the hell am I not a captain? And et cetera, et cetera. And so JM goes along with it. He's like, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And if you're willing to, like you said, this was unconventional and we could all be in a lot of trouble, but understand that I'm just trying to do it to keep everything moving forward and keep us all alive? And Dell's like, absolutely. And he's like, and I just want to make sure that you haven't lost sight of the fact that, the Lady Luck is still out there, and that is our mission. And JM's like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I get that. And we will absolutely focus on that. If I have anything to say about it, we'll focus on that as soon as we can. Get back to it. And Dell's like, perfect. So I feel like Dell accomplished what he set out to do. He sort of, in this sort of reality TV style alliance, he got JM to come to his side to acknowledge the importance of the company's objective beyond just keeping everybody alive. And JM at the same time doesn't see it as being manipulated. He's like, yeah, obviously, and I am a leader, and I can get all this done. So okay. So we've established that. I didn't write down. I put this in the wrong spot. So first of all, let me do that. JM. We don't have anything yet on the reverse. And let's add that here. We don't have anything in this direction yet, but we do have the reverse. A little bit of a relationship could lead to storylines. I think I was tracking storylines. Is that worthy of... I'm going to put that under Dell. Tom, JM. Okay, needs JM as an ally to convince crew to follow company wishes, and will flatter JM. Flatter and or manipulate. I'll just put manipulate. Okay, good enough to accomplish that. There's going to manipulate JM to accomplish that. So that's a little storyline developing at the moment. Okay. Okay, so that was a little moment. A couple days pass. They get to the DSM West Alliance. And yeah, they get to the West Alliance. And now I guess we got to roll the... So we sort of established the mission. Again, it's get on board, find the parts. They've suited up. Not Dell. Let's see how Dell's doing. Like, it's been a couple days at this point. Is Dell still functioning, or has it gotten too cold? Or is he hanging out by... Like, is he stuck by the engines or something? So on a 1 and 2, he can still function. On a 4 through 6, it's... there's some accommodation that has to be made. Okay. So Dell's he's right on the brink of like shutdown. The ship interior's gotten incredibly cold. He's hanging back by the engines where some radiant heat still maybe comes off, but it's not enough to do much. So maybe he's not completely shut down, but he's mostly... I don't want to say functionless. Maybe there's things he can do from the room. Is he like powered down, or is he still able to contribute? Coin flip. 1 through 3 he can contribute. Okay, so he can still do something from the engine room. Access the computers, so he can still do something. So he's back. The rest of the crew is getting ready to go on board. So what we're going to do is, first and foremost, let's bring that back up. Not Kungung. Building plot, 2 characters, reaction, confrontation, spotlight. It's not that. Looming crisis resolution. Sometimes I don't know why or did I just get stuck and stop? Like, did I just run out of time and didn't build all of the sub pages out? But So what we're going to do is we're going to do a scene resolution. Make up a plan. We've got that. Okay, so difficulty rating, shaky, solid, foolproof. I think docking on the other ship in suits, even if there's no Atmo, even if there's no life support at all, I feel like getting into the ship, I think I'm answering the second question first. I think I'm actually addressing the danger level, and I feel like the danger level is relatively safe. I think the plan of can they find what they need to repair the ship, I think is shaky. And here's the reason why. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of standardization of parts, but it is technically a mining vessel compared to a different kind of ship. There was some sabotage, so maybe the person who sabotaged the West Alliance used some of the same tricks when he sabotaged the Noctua. So I do feel like it's not most eventualities are catered to. I think there's a number of things that could go sideways. So we're going to go with a 10 or higher to see if they can find what they need to fix. Fix the ship. Okay. So we've done that, resolving the scene. Now we get to do a +1 for each character that brings a significant skill or successful roll to that skill to the scene. I'm going to say the engineer is going to be one of the +1s. So I'm going to have him do an engineering roll. I think a 2 is pretty... What's her education? She's got a pretty average education, like a 7. Let's see if it would change anything to make that a 7. I think it would keep the same modifier. So I think her role is pretty typical of an average engineering role. So let's give that a roll to see if she can if the engineer can contribute a +1. 6. No. Okay. So we're not going to get a bonus for him. So even though he knows the ship like the back of his hand, he doesn't know the Noctua. So while he's not harming the process, he's not necessarily giving them a leg up. Okay. What about Adea? Is she able to give a leg up? 10. Oh, wait. No, it's 6 with a sum of 8. Okay, no, I'm sorry. So yeah, +1 and a +1. So the 2 engineers are each contributing a +1. I'm going to make that a +2 because she has such a high effect. So there's a +3, and I think we can only max out at a +3, so it doesn't matter. I don't think anybody else is hurting the process, so let's say the 2 engineers working together are giving them a really good shot at success. So let's do a 2d6 +3. They got to beat a 10. I think they're going to knock the shit out of that. They rolled double 6s, so they got as high as they could, which is an effect of 5. Total roll was a 15, trying to beat a 10. Success with an effect of 5. So they're going to find what they need to repair the Noctua. We're not going to have to do something where we abandon ship and the West Alliance becomes their new home. So, okay. So we figured that out. So now we have to roll the consequences of the mission. And it was safe. So I think when it's safe, you roll a 1d6 +6. The plan was a success, so they're going to get a +2. So it's a 1d6 +6 +2. Roll 1d6 +8, basically. Let's see what they roll. 3 makes it 11. The task takes 4 times longer than planned. That actually is important. That's important. Because what that means is they were sort of, they weren't able to shave any time off of the... They weren't able to shave any time off of the approach. So they were going to be... And they had a really accurate breakdown of the time they had from Dell. At some point, he rolled really high when he was doing some calculations. So they knew they had a really good estimation of how long they had to accomplish the plan. So I think what that means is that somebody's going to run out of air and they're going to cut it really close. Because again, they had good data. So who's going to run out of air? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I can roll a 1d5. So it's going to be engineers 1, 2, 3, JM 2, Adea 3, Olivia 4, May 5. So let's roll 1, just to make sure I'm getting the syntax right, or 1d6. Let's do a 1d5. 2. 2 is JM. 1, 2. Okay, so JM starts to run out of air. And, and he's starting to get a little out of it. He's going to hypoxia. Is that when you start? Is that what, like when the CO2 builds up too much? Sometimes I just say words that I don't actually know. Hypoxia. Low tissue action. I guess it's sort of that. Yeah. So he starts to black out. He starts to get really like hallucinating, whatever the symptoms are, pounding head. He's not doing well. Let's roll some, let the dice decide. 1 through, first and foremost, 1 through 5, he'll live, but on a 6, maybe he just completely runs out. 4. Okay, so he's going to live. Is he going to be in bad shape? 1 through 3, yes. 4 through 6, no. 2, yes. Okay. So the plan's coming together. And yeah, Adea's like, okay, we got the parts, she's high five with the engineer. Let's get it back to the Noctua. And the whole time, Dell's like, everyone, JM, I need you to get back to the ship. Your vitals are starting to crash. He's like, I know. He's like, no, I need you to start getting back to the ship. May, Olivia, somebody, if you're not helping with engineering, you need to make sure JM gets back on board the Noctua right away and start getting him to sickbay as fast as possible. And, he's starting to stumble. And as they get him through the airlock from the West Alliance to the Noctua, and all of a sudden his suit vitals go beep, 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 bzzz, and he flatlines. And we'll fade to black there. So there we go. That's another session of Hostile Solo in the books. I'm, again, as I say it every time, I've been really enjoying this, and I've been having a lot of fun. Curious to see where it all goes. The thing that I'm kind of curious about, this is what, 7th, 8th, 9th session? It's getting in there. Usually I don't plan for solo adventures to last this long, but I don't know. I don't have an end state of what officially would end this, short of something going catastrophically wrong and they all die. So we'll just keep it going until I feel like the story kind of has run its course, because it's filling out sessions nicely, in a way that I didn't really expect. With, the One Ring, usually those adventures, and I don't know if I was just consciously doing something or subconsciously doing something, but I'm looking over here because my stuff's over there, but they tended to fall into 3, 4, 5 session chunks, but this one sort of is developing nicely. So anyway, thanks to everybody who checks this out. If you're watching this, you found our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe if this is your thing. Check out all the systems that we've played on the channel. If you're into actual plays, we have a couple of discussion topic podcasts as well. Check those out. Click the bell for notifications. I think that's also important. If you prefer audio versions of our actual plays or our discussions, search for MacLeod Trivia Night wherever you get your podcasts. We should show up. And jump into our Discord if you want to talk about this stuff. Otherwise, we, as always, really appreciate everybody who stops by, checks our stuff out, leaves a comment. Hopefully, yeah. The thing I see in the comments sometimes is hey, I'm about to check this out, whatever the game is, and so I watched you guys try it a little bit. In my mind, that's always sort of the best response, because it means that you're about to go out there and give it a shot. I get a lot of entertainment from, watching actual plays and Let's Plays and stuff like that. But my favorite ones are the ones that inspire me to then go do it on my own, to actually go experience it for myself. So hopefully this is getting some people to take a look at what Hostile Solo or any of the games that we play can do, and to jump in with both feet. So thanks again to everybody who watches these. We always really appreciate it. Take care. The in-session music was provided by Tabletop RPG Music and composed by Ian Fisher. You can find the Patreon at www.patreon.com/tabletop RPG music. That's all one word.